Brazil may lead the sugar market, but production spans the globe, from India to the EU and beyond. So why does Brazil take the spotlight this time of year? Joining me today to unpack global supply, Brazil's crop outlook, and what factors like oil and currency mean for sugar prices ahead is StoneX's Market Intelligence Analyst, Marcelo Bonifacio. Welcome, Marcelo. Let's start with an overview of the sugar market. Brazil is a top producer, but unlike other soft commodities, sugar is produced all around the world. Who else is up there?
So Brazil is actually the main producer. We account for almost 25% of world production, and we are followed by India. It's a significant difference. India produces around 30 million tons of sugar. Brazil produces more than 40 million, and these two countries are followed by Thailand. These three countries represent almost half of sugar production. The sugar production is well distributed around the world. We have 80% of sugar being produced by sugarcane. The other part of sugar is produced on sugar beets in Russia, China, some countries on Eurasia, Egypt. But Brazil accounts for almost it made the price a lot of times around the year, so that's why Brazil is the main producer and the main player on sugar market.
So we are nonetheless entering a very interesting period of the year where Brazil solely makes the price, like you just said. So can you tell us why?
So Brazil enters the production on this period of time. Here we have the center-south region that starts the harvest around April. And why Brazil is important now? Because the main producers on the northern hemisphere produce sugar between October and March. This period, these countries builds their stocks and consumes their own production. And when Brazil starts the crop, the import demand starts to increase around the globe. So China imports a lot of sugar, Indonesia, parts of the Middle East. So Brazil enters with the crop now between April and May and enters with export for the market. So if Brazil has a problem this period of time, it will impact the trade flows and the export volume for these countries and impacts a lot the prices. So that's why Brazil is important in this period of time. And it's worth to mention that other countries like Australia produces sugar starting the crop in June, but Australia produces 4 million tons and export 3 million tons, and Brazil produces like more than 40 million tons and export more than 30 million. So that's why Brazil is so important in this period of time.
Okay, a lot more, that's clear. So how is the crop looking in Brazil at the moment?
It's important to say that it's little consensus around the analysts. Last week, there was the New York Sugar Week, that is an important event for sugar market. And the message that they brought was no consensus. We are in the optimistic side. We are facing a really good overview for sugar mix in Brazil. For those who doesn't know, we have the sugar mills can decide whether they produces sugar or ethanol.
Okay.
So sugar prices are really better than ethanol. So we are optimistic for the sugar mix and the increase of sugar production. So that's why Brazil can produce more sugar this year, and we are really optimistic, as I said. And the agricultural side, the rains for center south enters between October and March, and this intercrop had good rains between October and December, but a really bad scenario between January and March. So that's why the analysts are really doubtful about the size of Brazilian sugarcane crop, but we are really sure that we'll have a good crop this year.
There are other factors that we need to consider when it comes to sugar price fluctuation, two of them being the Brazilian real and crude oil price. Can you elaborate a little on that, please?
Yeah, sure. The Brazilian real is the main factor between these two, because that when it's common as it's common in commodity, when the dollar strengthens comparing to real, the prices of commodities in reais increases. So when the dollar, when the real weaken, we have better scenario for the sugar mills, whether to produce sugar or to hedge their production.
Right.
So that's why we have this correlation between uh, those two factors. And for the crude oil, that's because, as I said, we have the ethanol market here in Brazil. The sugar mills can decide to produce sugar or to produce ethanol. And when we have better sugar prices, the mills will prefer to produce sugar. And when we have better ethanol prices, the sugar mills produces ethanol. And why crude oils are important? Because the ethanol here in Brazil competes with gasoline on the pumps. We have this characteristic, this special characteristic here in Brazil, that we can put on our cars ethanol or gasoline. So when the gasoline increases, when the gasoline prices increases, the ethanol follow the crude oil prices, and we have this correlation too. But this correlation depends a lot of political decisions.
Of course.
So that's why I said Brazilian real is more important for sugar than crude oils for now.
Got it. So what's your view then on sugar price in the short term and long term?
On the short term, we have a weakened demand for import. Last year, Brazil had record on sugar exports, and this caused a lot of flows for these important markets. As I said, Middle East, China, Indonesia, other countries on Southeast Asia, North Africa, they imported a lot of sugar last year. So we entered 2025 with not urgency at all for sugar demand on the import side. So we have a comfort supply from Brazil, from other countries, and the markets are expecting, they are waiting for sugar production results, for sugar production numbers here in Brazil. As I said, there is not consensus. So the market is waiting, and the sugar prices are kind of low this past couple of months. And that's why Brazil is important now, because if Brazil confirms this optimistic view, we may see continuous trend of prices as we are seeing now. But if we have problems, if the yields don't come as we are expecting, maybe the price can increase. And for long term, we can say that the next international crop that starts on October, we are expecting a surplus on global sugar balance, 3.7 million tons of surplus that can be bearish for markets, especially on the next year. And talking in like 5 years and 10 years, we are facing a market that still has a lot of room on growing consumption, especially on Africa and Asian countries. And that's why sugar will continue to be an important commodity for Brazil and for the rest of the world.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you, Marcelo, for your insight. And for more financial content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.